The cold bit through every layer Tanya Johnson had wrapped around herself. January in Chicago meant temperatures that could kill, and tonight was one of those nights. She sat in the corner of an abandoned parking garage, her back against the concrete wall, her arms wrapped around the small bundle pressed against her chest. "I can't breathe," she whispered into the darkness. Her lungs felt like they were closing, each breath a struggle. The asthma inhaler had run out 3 days ago, and she had no money to refill it. No money for anything. The cloth she'd found in a dumpster earlier that day now covered her 3-month-old daughter, Hope. At least the baby was quiet right now, nestled against her mother's warmth. But for how much longer? Tanya's hands shook as she adjusted the blanket, making sure Hope's tiny face stayed covered from the wind that whistled through the empty structure. Her whole body trembled, not just from the cold but from fear. This was their 3rd night in this garage. 3 nights since the eviction. 3 nights of wondering if they'd survive until morning. The parking garage had been abandoned for months. Most of the lights didn't work. Broken glass scattered across the ground. But it offered some protection from the wind, and the security guard only checked the ground floor. Tanya had discovered this 3rd level by accident, and it had become their temporary shelter. She tried to take another breath but her chest tightened more. The wheezing sound scared her. If she passed out, what would happen to Hope? The baby was so small, so helpless. Tanya had given birth alone in a free clinic, and the medical bills that followed had taken everything. Her landlord didn't care about her situation. Neither did her family, who had stopped answering her calls months ago. "Please," Tanya gasped to no one in particular. "Maybe to God. Maybe to the universe. Please help us." Her vision started to blur. The cold concrete beneath her felt like ice. Her thin jacket, once bright red but now stained and torn, offered little protection. The cloth over Hope moved slightly as the baby stirred. At least she was still alive. Still warm enough. Tanya's head fell back against the wall. Each breath came harder than the last. The wheezing grew louder. She couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't keep fighting. Her eyelids felt heavy. The cold didn't hurt as much now. Maybe that was a bad sign. She thought about the life she'd planned. College degree. Good job. Nice apartment. A father for her child who actually stayed. None of that had happened. Instead, she got sickness during pregnancy that made her lose her job. Got a boyfriend who disappeared the moment she told him she was pregnant. Got evicted because she couldn't pay rent while recovering from childbirth. The cloth over Hope slipped slightly. Tanya tried to fix it but her arms wouldn't cooperate. Everything felt far away now. Distant. Her body was giving up. "I'm sorry, baby," she whispered to her daughter. "I tried." Somewhere in the distance, she heard footsteps. Heavy boots on concrete. Her mind registered the sound but couldn't make sense of it. No one came here. No one cared about this place. The footsteps got closer. A bright flashlight beam swept across the garage level. Tanya tried to call out but only managed a weak wheeze. The light moved past them then swung back. Locked on her corner. "Oh my God," a man's voice said. The footsteps rushed toward her. Tanya's eyes could barely focus but she saw a figure in a dark blue coat kneeling beside her. Strong hands touched her shoulder. "Miss, can you hear me?" The voice was deep, urgent. "Can you talk to me?" Tanya tried to nod but wasn't sure if her head actually moved. The man's hand went to the cloth covering Hope. "I can't breathe," Tanya finally managed to whisper. "My baby." The man carefully lifted the edge of the cloth. His entire body went still. His hand froze. For a moment, time seemed to stop as he stared at the tiny infant pressed against Tanya's chest. The baby's brown skin looked almost blue in the cold. Her little chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. "There's a baby," he said, his voice cracking. "A baby out here in this cold." He immediately pulled off his expensive coat and wrapped it around both of them. The warmth felt like fire against Tanya's frozen skin. She wanted to refuse, to say she didn't deserve it, but her body had already accepted the heat. "I'm calling an ambulance," the man said, pulling out his phone. "Stay with me. Both of you stay with me." Tanya's eyes closed. She heard the man talking rapidly on the phone. Heard him give the address. Heard him say something about hypothermia and an infant. The words blurred together. Then she felt herself being lifted. Strong arms under her knees and back. She tried to protest but no sound came out. The man carried her quickly toward the exit, his coat still wrapped around her and Hope. "You're going to be okay," he kept saying. "Both of you. I promise." Tanya wanted to believe him. Wanted to hope. But hope had left her so many times before. The cold night air hit them as they left the garage. In the distance, sirens wailed. getting closer. The man held her tighter as he rushed toward a car parked nearby. Not just any car. Even through her fading consciousness, Tanya recognized the sleek black luxury vehicle. "Who are you?" she managed to whisper. "My name is Julian," he said. "Julian Carter. And I'm not leaving you." Does one chance encounter really change everything? Or does it take a heart willing to see what others ignore? If this story touches you, subscribe to see how Tanya's life transforms. Drop a comment telling me what you would do if you found someone in desperate need. Would you stop to help or would you walk away? Julian Carter had built a fortune by paying attention to details others missed. That instinct had made him one of the youngest billionaires in Chicago. Tonight it had saved 2 lives. He'd been doing a late-night inspection of properties his company owned. The abandoned parking garage was scheduled for demolition next month to make way for a new community center. He always checked his projects personally, even at odd hours. Some habits from his poor childhood never left him. The sound of wheezing had been so faint he almost missed it. But something made him pause. Made him turn his flashlight toward that dark corner. And there she was, a beautiful young woman with brown skin and desperate eyes, barely conscious, clutching a baby to her chest. Now, as he drove well over the speed limit toward the hospital, Julian couldn't stop glancing at the woman in his passenger seat. She'd passed out completely. The baby somehow remained quiet under the layers of coats he'd piled on them. His car's heated seats were on full blast. "Come on," he muttered, weaving through traffic. The ambulance would have taken too long. His car would get them there faster. His mind raced with questions. How long had they been out there? Where was her family? How did a mother and baby end up in an abandoned garage in January? The hospital emergency entrance appeared ahead. Julian pulled up right to the doors and jumped out, running around to the passenger side. He carefully lifted the woman again, baby and all, and rushed through the automatic doors. "I need help," he called out. 3 nurses ran over immediately. A doctor appeared behind them. "What happened?" the doctor asked, already checking the woman's pulse. "I found her in an abandoned parking garage," Julian said quickly. "She said she couldn't breathe. Has asthma, I think. And the baby, she's been out in the cold." "Get them to Trauma 1, the doctor ordered. "Now." The nurses took over, placing the woman on a stretcher that had appeared from somewhere. One nurse carefully took the baby, peeling back the layers of coats. "The infant is hypothermic," the nurse said. "We need the warming unit." They rushed away through double doors. Julian stood there, suddenly alone in the waiting area. His hands were shaking. In all his years of business deals and high-pressure situations, nothing had ever affected him like this. A hospital administrator approached him with a clipboard. "Sir, do you have information about the patients?" "No," Julian admitted. "I just found them." "Do you know their names?" He shook his head. "I know her first name is Tanya. That's all she said before she passed out." The administrator nodded. "We'll need someone to handle the billing. Without insurance information." "I'll handle it," Julian said immediately. The administrator blinked. "Sir, emergency care can be very expensive, and we don't know the extent." "I said I'll handle it. All of it. Whatever they need. Put it on my account." He pulled out his wallet and handed over a black credit card. The administrator looked at the name on the card. Her eyes widened slightly. "Mr. Carter. I didn't recognize you. Of course we'll take care of everything." Julian barely heard her. His eyes stayed fixed on those double doors where they'd taken Tanya and her baby. He moved to the waiting area and sat down, still wearing just his suit. He'd given both his coat and his car blanket to them. The minutes crawled by. Julian pulled out his phone and made several calls. First to his assistant, telling her to clear his schedule for tomorrow. Then to his lawyer, asking about resources for homeless families. Then to his mother, who always knew what to do in situations like this. "You found a woman and baby in a parking garage?" his mother asked, concern filling her voice. "Yes. They were dying, Mom. If I'd been 10 minutes later..." "You did the right thing, Julian. Stay there. Make sure they're okay. And son, this is why I'm proud of you." After hanging up, Julian sat back and closed his eyes. His mind went to his own childhood. The nights his mother had struggled to keep him and his sister warm. The times they'd slept in their car because they had no apartment. The feeling of hunger that never quite went away. He'd promised himself that when he made it, really made it, he'd help people the way strangers had helped his family. Tonight he got that chance. A doctor came through the doors an hour later. Julian jumped to his feet. "Mr. Carter?" the doctor said. "I understand you brought in our patients. How are they?" The woman, her name is Tanya Johnson according to the ID we found, is stable. She has severe asthma that wasn't being treated, plus hypothermia and malnutrition. We've got her on breathing treatments and warming protocols. She should recover fully. And the baby? The doctor smiled slightly. Baby Hope is tougher than she looks. 3 months old, also hypothermic and underweight, but no permanent damage. We're keeping both of them for observation, probably 3 days minimum. Relief flooded through Julian. Can I see them? Not tonight. They both need rest. But perhaps tomorrow if Ms. Johnson agrees. Julian nodded. Whatever they need. Medical care, medications, anything. I'm covering all costs. That's very generous. The doctor paused. Mr. Carter, I don't know what your relationship is with Ms. Johnson, but you should know that we've contacted social services. A mother and infant experiencing homelessness, they'll need to assess the situation. Social services? Julian's jaw tightened. They're going to take the baby? Not necessarily. But they'll want to ensure there's a safe place for them to go after discharge. Without a home address. She'll have a home, Julian said firmly. I'll make sure of it. The doctor looked surprised but nodded. That's good to hear. Check back tomorrow afternoon. After the doctor left, Julian walked back to his car. The passenger seat still had water marks from where the snow had melted off Tanya's clothes. He thought about her face, the way she'd looked at him with those desperate eyes. The way she'd whispered about her baby before passing out. He'd met countless people in his business career. Most wanted something from him. Money, connections, opportunities. But Tanya hadn't asked for anything. She'd been too busy trying to keep her daughter alive. Julian started the car and headed home to his penthouse apartment. But his mind stayed at the hospital. Tomorrow he'd come back. Tomorrow he'd start fixing this situation properly. Because something told him that finding Tanya Johnson wasn't just chance. It was meant to happen. Tanya woke to white ceiling tiles and the steady beep of monitors. For a moment she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The cold. The garage. The man. Hope. Hope. She tried to sit up but pain shot through her chest. Hands gently pressed her back down. Easy now, a nurse in green scrubs said softly. Your baby is fine. She's in the NICU getting warm and fed. You can see her soon. I need to see her now. Tanya's voice came out hoarse. Please. I need to know she's okay. The nurse nodded understandingly. Let me check with your doctor. But I promise you she's doing well. Better than expected, actually. Tanya lay back against the pillows. Her chest still hurt with each breath, but differently than before. Not the desperate crushing pain, but a soreness. She looked down and saw an IV in her arm. Monitors tracked her heart rate and oxygen levels. A breathing mask sat nearby on the bedside table. Where am I? She asked. Chicago Memorial Hospital. You were brought in last night with severe hypothermia and an asthma attack. You're in a private room on the 4th floor. Private room? Tanya's stomach dropped. I can't afford a private room. I can't afford any of this. The nurse smiled gently. All your bills are taken care of. The gentleman who brought you in has arranged everything. What gentleman? Mr. Carter. Julian Carter. He's been calling every hour to check on you and your daughter. Tanya's mind struggled to catch up. The man from the garage. Julian. She remembered his voice, strong and sure. His warm coat. His arms carrying her. But why would he pay for all this? I don't understand, she whispered. I don't know all the details, the nurse said, checking the monitors. But you're very lucky he found you. A few more hours in that cold. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. A doctor came in then, middle-aged with kind eyes. He introduced himself and examined Tanya thoroughly, explaining her condition. Severe asthma attack. Stage 2 hypothermia. Dehydration and malnutrition. But no permanent damage. She would recover. Can I see my baby now? Tanya asked when he finished. Of course. We'll wheel you down to the NICU. 10 minutes later, Tanya sat in a wheelchair next to an incubator where Hope lay sleeping. Her daughter looked so small under the warming lights, but her color was better. Pink instead of blue. Her little chest rose and fell steadily. Tears streamed down Tanya's face. I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. A NICU nurse standing nearby touched her shoulder. You kept her alive out there. That takes incredible strength. You're a good mother. I almost got her killed. No. You protected her with your own body. You put her needs above yours. That's what mothers do. Tanya reached through the incubator opening and gently touched Hope's tiny hand. The baby's fingers wrapped around her thumb. That simple gesture broke something open inside Tanya, and she sobbed. She cried for all the mistakes she'd made. For the boyfriend who'd abandoned them. For the family who'd turned their backs. For the job she'd lost and the apartment she couldn't keep. For every moment of the past 3 months when she'd felt completely alone. But mixed with the grief was something else. Relief. Hope was alive. They'd survived. Someone had found them. Someone had cared enough to help. Later that afternoon, Tanya was back in her room when there was a knock on the door. The nurse poked her head in. "You have a visitor. Are you up for it?" Tanya hesitated. "Who is it?" "Mr. Carter." Her heart jumped. Part of her wanted to refuse, feeling embarrassed about her situation. But another part, the honest part, knew she owed this man her life. And Hope's life. "Okay," she said quietly. The man who walked through the door took her breath away. He was tall, with dark hair and sharp features. He wore an expensive gray suit that probably cost more than she'd made in a year at her old job. But his eyes were warm as they met hers. "Miss Johnson," he said, his voice the same one she remembered from the garage. "I'm glad to see you're doing better. Please call me Tanya." She felt very aware of the hospital gown she wore, of her hair that probably looked terrible. "And thank you. For everything. For saving us." Julian moved closer and sat in the chair next to her bed. "How are you feeling?" "Sore. Tired. But alive. The doctor says I'll recover fully. And Hope, she's going to be fine too." "I know. I've been getting updates." Tanya looked down at her hands. "The nurse said you're paying for everything. I don't know how to repay you. I don't have any money. I don't even have a place to live." "You don't need to repay me." She looked up sharply. "But..." "Tanya," Julian said gently, "I grew up poor. Really poor. My mother raised me and my sister alone, and there were times we had nothing. Times we were hungry and cold and scared. But people helped us. Strangers who didn't have to care, but they did. And my mother always told me that when I had the ability to help others, I should do it without expecting anything back." Tears filled Tanya's eyes again. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. But I do want to ask you some questions if that's okay. About your situation." Tanya nodded and slowly she told him everything. About getting pregnant and losing her job because of complications. About the medical bills from giving birth. About her family cutting her off because they disapproved of her having a baby without being married. About the eviction 3 days ago. About the garage being the only shelter she could find. Julian listened without interrupting. His face showed emotion but not pity. Something else. Understanding maybe. Or anger at the injustice of it all. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "The social worker is coming tomorrow. They'll want to know you have a safe place to go before you're discharged." Tanya's chest tightened with fear. "Are they going to take Hope away from me?" "Not if I can help it." Julian pulled out his phone and made some notes. "I own several apartment buildings. I have a small one-bedroom that just became available. It's furnished. Safe neighborhood. I'd like you to stay there." "I can't pay rent," Tanya said, shame heating her face. "I'm not asking you to. Not right away. Get back on your feet first. Focus on your health and Hope's health. We'll figure out the rest later." "But why would you do all this for a stranger?" Julian met her eyes directly. "Because someone did it for me once. And because it's the right thing to do. Will you accept the apartment?" Tanya wanted to refuse. Wanted to say she'd figure it out herself. But she thought about Hope in that incubator. Thought about going back to that cold garage. Thought about pride versus survival. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I'll accept. Thank you." A small smile crossed Julian's face. "Good. I'll arrange everything. You focus on getting better." After he left, Tanya lay back against the pillows. She didn't know what to think or feel. Relief mixed with disbelief. Gratitude mixed with embarrassment. But underneath it all was a tiny spark of something she hadn't felt in months. Hope. Maybe, just maybe, things were going to be okay. 3 days later, Julian's driver pulled up to the apartment building in a quiet neighborhood on the north side. Tanya sat in the back seat, holding Hope close. The baby wore new clothes from the hospital, soft blue pajamas that Julian had somehow arranged to have delivered. Tanya wore donated clothes from the hospital charity closet, a green sweater and jeans that actually fit. "This is it," the driver said kindly. He was an older man named George who talked to her gently the whole ride, sensing her nervousness. Julian was waiting outside the building entrance. He wore dark jeans and a maroon sweater today, more casual than the suit from the hospital. He smiled when he saw them. "Welcome home," he said, opening the car door. "Home. The word felt foreign to Tanya. Julian led them inside and up to the second floor. The building was clean and well maintained. Other residents they passed nodded politely. At door 2C, Julian pulled out a key and handed it to Tanya. "It's yours," he said simply. Her hand shook as she unlocked the door. The apartment was small but beautiful. A living room with a comfortable couch and TV. A kitchen with new appliances. Through one door she could see a bedroom with a real bed. And in the corner of the bedroom, a crib already set up with soft pink blankets. "I took the liberty of getting some things you'd need," Julian said, sounding almost apologetic. "But if you don't like anything we can change it." Tanya walked slowly through the space, hope still in her arms. The refrigerator was stocked with food. The cabinets had dishes and pots and pans. The bathroom had towels and toiletries. The closet had clothes in her size, simple but good quality. Diapers and baby supplies filled a dresser in the bedroom. She turned to face Julian, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I don't deserve this." "Yes, you do. Every person deserves a safe place to live." He stepped closer but kept a respectful distance. "Tanya, I know this is overwhelming. But I want you to understand something. This isn't charity. This is a helping hand. There's a difference." "What difference?" "Charity makes people feel small. A helping hand recognizes that anyone can fall on hard times, and we all need help sometimes." He gestured around the apartment. "My mother and I lived in a place half this size when I was a kid. And we were grateful for it because it was warm and safe. That's all this is. A warm, safe place for you and Hope." Tanya wiped her eyes. "I want to pay you back. Somehow. Then focus on getting better. Focus on your daughter. When you're ready we'll talk about next steps. But for now just breathe. Just live." After Julian left, Tanya sat on the couch and looked around her new home. It didn't feel real. Any moment she expected to wake up back in that cold garage. But hope stirred in her arms, a reminder that this was happening. Over the next few days Tanya settled into a routine. She took her asthma medication religiously. She fed Hope on schedule. She kept the apartment clean. And she thought about her future. Julian called every evening to check on them. Just brief conversations making sure they had everything they needed. He never pushed or asked for anything. Just offered support. On the 5th day he came by with his laptop. "I have a proposal for you," he said as they sat at her small kitchen table. "My company partners with a job training program for people who've faced hardships. They offer free courses in things like business administration, computer skills, customer service. Everything is online so you can do it from home while taking care of Hope." "Online courses?" Tanya leaned forward, interested. "Yes. And when you finish there are job placement services. Good jobs with benefits." He turned the laptop toward her, showing her the program website. "What do you think?" Tanya studied the screen. The courses looked legitimate. Professional. The kind of training that could actually change someone's life. "I never finished college," she admitted quietly. "I had 2 years done, but then. This isn't college level. But it is valuable. Real-world skills that employers want." Julian's voice was encouraging. "You're smart, Tanya. I can tell. You just need an opportunity." She looked at Hope, sleeping in the bouncer chair nearby. Then back at the laptop screen. Then at Julian, this man who'd appeared in her life like some kind of miracle. "Okay," she said. "Yes. I want to do this." Julian's smile was genuine. "Great. I'll get you registered today." That afternoon after he left, Tanya sat at her new laptop, another gift from Julian, and explored the course options. Business basics. Computer applications. Customer service excellence. She could do this. She could build a real future. She spent the evening creating her schedule. Wake up at 6. Feed and change Hope. Study for 3 hours. Break for lunch and baby time. Study for 3 more hours while Hope napped. Evening for dinner and family time. It was structured. Purposeful. For the first time since before Hope was born, Tanya felt like herself again. Not just a struggling mother. Not just a charity case. But a person with goals and plans. Julian called that night as usual. "How are you settling in?" he asked. "Good. Really good." Tanya surprised herself with how true that was. "I made a study schedule. I'm starting the business basics course tomorrow." "That's wonderful." She could hear the smile in his voice. "I knew you'd do well with this." "Julian," she said softly, "why are you doing all this?" "Really?" He was quiet for a moment. "Do you believe in fate, Tanya?" "I don't know. Maybe. I was supposed to inspect that garage next week. But something made me go that night. Something made me park where I did, walk where I walked, stop when I heard you. I don't think that was an accident. You think you were meant to find us? I think we were meant to meet. For whatever reason. He paused. Get some rest. Big day tomorrow. After hanging up, Tanya sat on her couch and looked around her warm, safe apartment. She thought about Julian's question. Did she believe in fate? Maybe she was starting to. 2 months passed. Tanya threw herself into her studies with determination. Every morning while Hope played on her activity mat, Tanya worked through course modules. She learned about business communications, basic accounting, office software. Her grades were excellent. Julian continued checking in regularly. At first by phone, then gradually by in-person visits. He'd stop by after work, bringing coffee or dinner. They'd talk while Hope gurgled happily nearby. Tell me about growing up, Tanya asked one evening. They sat at her kitchen table, containers of Chinese food between them. Hope was asleep in her crib. Julian set down his fork. It wasn't easy. My father left when I was 6. My mom worked 3 jobs to keep us fed. We moved a lot, always one step ahead of eviction. Sometimes one step behind. How did you get from there to, well, here? She gestured vaguely, meaning his success. Scholarships. Hard work. And luck. He smiled slightly. Mostly luck. I started a small real estate company right when the market was shifting. Made the right investments at the right time. But I never forgot where I came from. Is that why you help people? Partly. But also because I remember what it felt like to be invisible. To have people look through you like you don't exist. His dark eyes met hers. You're not invisible, Tanya. You never were. Something shifted in that moment. Something Tanya had been trying to ignore for weeks. The way her heart sped up when Julian called. The way she found herself thinking about him at random moments. The way hope seemed to light up when he visited. She was developing feelings for him. Real feelings. And that terrified her. I should put away this food, she said, standing abruptly. If Julian noticed her sudden discomfort, he didn't mention it. He helped her clean up, then said goodnight. After he left, Tanya stood in her quiet apartment and tried to be logical. Julian was a billionaire. She was a single mother on public assistance taking free courses. They lived in different worlds. Whatever she was feeling, it couldn't go anywhere. But her heart didn't care about logic. The next week, Hope had her 6-month checkup. Tanya was surprised when Julian offered to drive them. You don't have to, she said on the phone. We can take the bus. I want to. If that's okay with you. It was more than okay. It was wonderful. Tanya found herself looking forward to it all week. Julian arrived exactly on time as always. He held doors for her. He carried the diaper bag. In the waiting room he made funny faces that had Hope giggling. She likes you, Tanya observed. I like her too. She's a special kid. He tickled Hope's foot gently. She's going to do amazing things someday. The pediatrician was impressed with Hope's progress. She's gained weight beautifully. All her developmental milestones are on track. You're doing an excellent job, Mom. Pride swelled in Tanya's chest. She was doing a good job. Despite everything, she was being a good mother. As they left the clinic, Hope fell asleep in her car seat. Julian drove slowly, careful not to jostle her. Thank you for coming today, Tanya said quietly. It meant a lot. Having someone there. I'm glad I could be here. He glanced at her briefly before returning his eyes to the road. Tanya, can I ask you something? Sure. When you finish your courses next month, what do you want to do? What kind of job are you hoping for? She'd thought about this a lot. Something with people. I like helping others. Maybe administrative work at a hospital or nonprofit. Something that makes a difference. Would you consider working for my company? Tanya's head turned sharply toward him. What? I need someone in my foundation office. Someone who understands what it's like to need help. Who can connect with the people we serve. He pulled up to a red light and looked at her fully. You'd be perfect for it. Good salary, benefits, childcare assistance. And before you ask, no, this isn't special treatment. It's a real job with real expectations. But I think you'd excel at it. Julian, I haven't even finished my courses yet. But you will. And when you do, the job is yours if you want it. Tanya's mind spun. A real job. With Julian's company. It was an incredible opportunity. But doubt crept in. People will say I'm only getting it because you helped me, she said quietly. They'll say I don't deserve it. People will always talk. What matters is what you know about yourself. The light turned green and he drove forward. You're smart, hardworking, and compassionate. That's exactly who I need on my team. So what do you say? She thought about her options. She could refuse and try to find something else, proving she could do it alone. But refusing help out of pride was what had nearly gotten her and Hope killed in that garage. She'd promised herself to never let pride hurt her daughter again. Yes, she said. I accept. Thank you. Julian's smile was radiant. You won't regret it. That night, after Hope was asleep, Tanya stood at her window looking out at the city lights. She thought about how far she'd come in just 2 months. From dying in a cold garage to having a home, an education, and now a job offer. All because Julian had stopped to help. But it was more than that now. She couldn't deny it anymore. She was falling for him. Maybe had been since that first night when he'd carried her to safety. When he'd promised she'd be okay. The question was, what did she do about it? Tanya completed her final course exam on a bright March morning. She submitted it, then sat back and stared at the screen. Done. She'd actually done it. Her phone rang almost immediately. Julian, as if he'd been waiting. How did it go? He asked. I just finished. I think I did well. Of course you did. This calls for a celebration. Can I take you and Hope to dinner tonight? Something in his voice sounded different. Lighter. Almost nervous. That would be nice. That evening, Julian picked them up in his car. Instead of his usual casual clothes, he wore a dark blue button-down shirt. He'd gotten a haircut. Tanya noticed these things and tried not to read too much into them. The restaurant he chose was nice but not fancy. Family-friendly with a kids' menu and high chairs. He'd thought about Hope, about making sure they'd all be comfortable. Over dinner, they talked about her upcoming job start date. About the apartment in the better neighborhood he'd mentioned before. About Hope's first birthday plans, still months away but fun to think about. I have something for you, Julian said as they finished eating. He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket. Tanya opened it carefully. Inside was a key and a paper with an address. What's this? Your new apartment. 2 bedrooms, bigger kitchen, better schools nearby. And it's yours for as long as you need it. Julian. Before you say anything, there's more. He pulled out another envelope. Your job offer, official and in writing. Salary, benefits, everything we discussed. Tanya looked at the papers. The salary was more than she'd ever imagined making. Enough to truly support herself and Hope. Enough to start saving for the future. The apartment rent is very reasonable, Julian continued. And with your new salary you can afford it comfortably. You'll be completely independent. Standing on your own 2 feet. The significance of that hit her. He wasn't just giving her things. He was giving her the tools to build her own life. There was a difference. When can I see the apartment? She asked. How about this weekend? What happens when kindness meets opportunity? When someone doesn't just give you a fish, but teaches you to fish and hands you the rod too. If you're inspired by Julian's approach to helping others, subscribe to see how this story unfolds. Comment below, have you ever received help that changed your life? Or given help that made a real difference? Share your story. The apartment was beautiful. Hardwood floors. Large windows that let in natural light. A real bedroom for Hope with space for her to grow. A kitchen where Tanya could actually cook proper meals. This is too much, Tanya whispered, standing in the empty living room. It's exactly right. Julian stood near the window, hands in his pockets. Tanya, I want you to understand something. These past 2 months, watching you work so hard, watching you be such a good mother, watching you rebuild your life. I'm not doing this because I feel sorry for you. I'm doing this because I believe in you. She turned to face him. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you're strong. I know you're determined. I know you love your daughter more than anything. He moved closer, his voice softening. And I know that finding you that night was the best thing that's happened to me in years. The air between them felt charged. Tanya's heart pounded. She should step back, should maintain professional distance. But she didn't want to. Julian, she started, not sure what she was going to say. Hope chose that moment to wake up from her nap in the stroller, making her hungry sounds. The moment broke. Both of them laughed, the tension easing. Someone has timing, Julian said with a smile. They spent the rest of the afternoon planning the apartment. Where furniture would go. What colors to paint. Julian insisted on covering the security deposit and first month's rent as a job signing bonus. Tanya accepted, but insisted on paying all future rent herself. He agreed, respecting her need for independence. As they drove back to her current apartment, Tanya felt something she hadn't experienced in over a year. Joy. Pure, simple joy. She had a job. A new home. A healthy daughter. A future. And maybe, just maybe, something more developing with the man sitting beside her. That night, after Julian left, Tanya video called the one person from her past she still occasionally talked to. Her former college roommate, Nicole. "Girl, you're glowing," Nicole said when she answered. "What's going on?" Tanya told her everything. About Julian, the apartment, the job. About how her life had completely turned around. "So let me get this straight," Nicole said when she finished. "This rich, handsome man literally saved your life, gave you a place to live, paid for your training, gave you a job and now a better apartment? And he's single?" "Yes." "And you're falling for him?" It wasn't a question. Tanya sighed. "Is it that obvious?" "Honey, you're smiling more in this call than in the entire year before. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" "Nothing. He's just being kind." "He doesn't see me that way." Nicole gave her a look. "Tanya, men don't do all this just to be kind. Trust me. He's interested." "You don't know that." "I know men. And I know that look you described, the way he watches you. The way he's always there. Girl, he's definitely interested. The question is whether you'll let yourself believe it." After they hung up, Tanya thought about Nicole's words. Could Julian really be interested in her? Or was Nicole reading too much into simple kindness? She looked over at Hope, sleeping peacefully in her crib. Whatever happened with Julian, she had to be careful. She couldn't let her feelings complicate the good thing they had. She couldn't risk Hope's stability for a relationship that might not work out. But as she lay in bed that night, she couldn't stop thinking about the way Julian had looked at her in the empty apartment. The way he'd said finding her was the best thing that had happened to him. Maybe Nicole was right. Maybe. Tanya started her job at Carter Foundation on a Monday morning in late March. The office was modern and bright, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Her desk was near other administrative staff, and everyone welcomed her warmly. "Julian talks about you all the time," her supervisor, Patricia, said during orientation. Patricia was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and an efficient manner. "Says you're going to bring valuable perspective to our family services program." "I hope to," Tanya said honestly. The work was challenging but fulfilling. She helped process applications from families needing assistance. She coordinated with local shelters and food banks. She spoke with people who reminded her of herself just months ago, scared and desperate and hoping for help. Julian's office was on the top floor, but he came down regularly to check on various departments. When he stopped by Tanya's desk, it was always professional. Brief questions about work. Making sure she had what she needed. But sometimes their eyes would meet and hold for a moment too long. The office daycare was a blessing. Hope spent her days in a bright room with other babies, well cared for while Tanya worked. During lunch breaks, Tanya would go feed her and play. Sometimes Julian would join them, bouncing Hope on his knee while they discussed foundation business. "You're a natural with her," Tanya observed one afternoon. "Kids are easy. They're honest about what they want." He made a silly face and Hope laughed. "Adults are much more complicated." "Is that right?" He met her eyes over Hope's head. "Definitely." Something was building between them. Tanya felt it every time they were in the same room. The awareness, the pull. But neither of them mentioned it. Both stayed carefully on the safe side of the line. Until the company party. Carter Foundation held an annual spring gala to thank donors and celebrate the year's accomplishments. It was a fancy event, black tie. Tanya almost didn't go, worried about fitting in. But Patricia insisted. "It's part of the job," she said. "And trust me, Julian will want you there. You're one of our success stories. Donors love seeing the real impact of their money." Tanya borrowed a dress from Nicole, a simple but elegant navy blue gown. She wore her hair down for once, natural curls framing her face. Hope stayed with a babysitter, the teenage daughter of a neighbor who Tanya had gotten to know. When Tanya walked into the hotel ballroom where the gala was held, she felt out of place. Everyone looked so wealthy, so comfortable in this world. She nearly turned around and left. Then she saw Julian across the room. He wore a black tuxedo that fit him perfectly. He was talking to a group of people, but his eyes scanned the room constantly, as if looking for someone. When his gaze found her, he stopped mid-sentence. Just stared. Even from across the room, Tanya felt the intensity of that look. He excused himself from his conversation and walked straight to her. "Tanya," he said when he reached her. "You look beautiful." "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." He smiled. "Can I get you a drink?" They spent the evening together. Julian introduced her to donors, telling her story with her permission. Tanya spoke honestly about what the foundation's help had meant to her. People listened. Several wrote bigger checks on the spot. "You're a natural at this," Julian said during a break in the networking. "I'm just being honest. That's what makes it powerful." The band started playing. Couples moved to the dance floor. Julian hesitated, then held out his hand. Would you like to dance? Tanya's heart jumped. Dancing was different. Dancing was personal. But she put her hand in his. I'd like that. He led her to the floor and pulled her close. One hand at her waist, the other holding hers. They moved together slowly, finding their rhythm. I'm glad you came tonight, Julian said quietly, his mouth close to her ear. Me too. Tanya, I need to tell you something. Her heart pounded. Okay. He pulled back slightly to look at her. These past few months, getting to know you, watching you with hope, seeing how strong you are. You've become important to me. More important than I expected. Julian, I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know. You're not just someone I helped. You're someone I care about. The music swelled around them. Other couples danced nearby, but Tanya only saw Julian. Only felt his hands holding her. Only heard his words echoing in her mind. I care about you too, she whispered. His eyes darkened with emotion. You do? Yes. Maybe I shouldn't. Maybe it's complicated. But I do. It doesn't have to be complicated. Doesn't it? You're my employer. My landlord. The person who saved my life. There's so many reasons this is a bad idea. Or maybe there's one good reason why it's not. He pulled her slightly closer. Because we actually feel something real. Tanya wanted to argue. Wanted to list all the logical reasons they shouldn't pursue this. But in that moment, swaying in his arms with music surrounding them, logic didn't matter. What do? She asked. We take it slow. We be honest with each other. We figure it out together. And if it doesn't work out, then we deal with it like adults. But Tanya, I think it will work. I really do. The song ended. They stood there for a moment longer, hands still clasped, neither wanting to let go. Then reality intruded as someone called Julian's name, needing his attention. I should. He gestured vaguely toward the interruption. Go. I know. But before he left, he squeezed her hand. We'll talk more. Soon. Tanya watched him walk away, her heart full of hope and fear in equal measure. What were they doing? Was this crazy? But when she touched her waist where his hand had been, feeling the lingering warmth, she couldn't regret it. Maybe crazy was okay sometimes. The day after the gala, Julian called Tanya at work. Can you come up to my office? I have something I want to discuss. Her stomach fluttered as she rode the elevator to the top floor. Was he regretting what he'd said last night? Was this about them or about work? Julian's assistant waved her through. His office was stunning with huge windows and modern furniture. But what caught her eye was the wall of photos showing various foundation projects. Families in new homes. Kids at after-school programs. Community centers and food banks. Pretty good legacy, she said, studying the pictures. Julian came to stand beside her. It's what matters to me most. More than the real estate deals or the money. This is why I do what I do. Because of your mom. And people like you. People who deserve a chance. He turned to face her. Tanya, about last night? If you're going to say it was a mistake, she interrupted, just tell me now. What? No. He looked shocked. Not a mistake. The opposite. I want to take you to dinner. A real date. Just the two of us. Relief flooded through her. What about Hope? Patricia's daughter babysits, right? We'll pay her well. One evening. What do you say? Yes. I'd like that. They set it for Friday. Tanya spent the week simultaneously excited and terrified. She told Nicole, who squealed over the phone. She bought a new green dress with her first real paycheck. She tried not to overthink everything. Friday came. The babysitter arrived at 6. Tanya kissed Hope goodbye, gave the sitter all the emergency numbers and tried not to look as nervous as she felt. Julian picked her up at 7. He took her to a quiet restaurant, nothing too fancy, where they could actually talk. They ordered food and wine and then they just talked. Really talked. He told her about building his company from nothing. About the failures along the way. About his sister who lived in California with her family. About his mother who'd passed away 2 years ago. I wish she could have met you, he said. She would have liked you. Tell me about her. She was tough. Had to be. But kind, always kind. She taught me that having money didn't make you better than anyone else. Just luckier. He smiled. She volunteered at a homeless shelter every week, even after I'd made my fortune. Said it kept her grounded. Tanya told him about her own dreams growing up. About wanting to be a teacher. About the family that had high expectations but little support. About her ex-boyfriend who'd seemed so perfect until he wasn't. I don't regret having Hope, she said firmly. Not for a second. But I do regret trusting him. His loss, Julian said simply. He missed out on knowing an amazing kid. And an amazing woman. The compliment warmed her. They lingered over dessert, neither wanting the evening to end. When Julian finally drove her home, he walked her to her door. I had a great time, Tanya said, suddenly shy. So did I. Can we do it again? I'd like that. He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. She didn't want to. Their lips met in a soft, sweet kiss that made her toes curl. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. Good night, Tanya. Good night. She floated inside, paid the babysitter, checked on sleeping Hope, then collapsed on her couch with a huge grin. She was dating Julian Carter. Actually dating him. It felt surreal. Over the next month, they saw each other regularly. Dinner dates when they could arrange babysitters. Lunch together at work. Walks in the park on weekends with Hope in her stroller. They took it slow, getting to know each other without the pressure of his help hanging over them. Tanya insisted on paying for dates sometimes, even though her salary was nothing compared to his wealth. Julian understood why it mattered to her and accepted gracefully. I want to show you something, Julian said one Saturday afternoon. They'd been dating about 6 weeks. He drove them to a part of the city Tanya didn't recognize. Where are we going? You'll see. He pulled up to a large building with scaffolding around it. A sign read, Future Home of Carter Family Center. What is this? Tanya asked. Remember the parking garage where I found you? Her breath caught. Yes. I bought it. We're turning it into a community center. Homeless services on the first floor. Job training on the second. Childcare on the third. Free for anyone who needs it. Tears filled Tanya's eyes. Julian, I want you to help run it. Be the director of family services. You know what people need because you've been there. He took her hand. This place, this project, it happened because of you. Because finding you reminded me why I do this work. Tanya looked at the building, imagining what it would become. A place of hope instead of despair. A place where other women like her could find help. I'd be honored, she said. He kissed her right there on the sidewalk, Hope babbling happily between them in her stroller. In that moment, Tanya felt complete. She had a purpose. A partner. A family. The center opened 3 months later with a huge ceremony. Local officials came. News cameras. Donors and volunteers. But Tanya only cared about the families who arrived looking for help. She greeted each one personally. Listened to their stories. Offered hope and practical assistance. This was what she was meant to do. Help others the way she'd been helped. Julian watched from across the room, his eyes full of pride. When their gazes met, he mouthed, I love you. Tanya mouthed back, I love you too. It was the first time they'd said it. And it was perfect. Life settled into a wonderful rhythm. Tanya ran the family services department at the new Carter Family Center, and it thrived under her leadership. Hope was walking now, getting into everything. Julian spent most evenings at their apartment, often staying for dinner, becoming part of their daily life. When are you going to make it official? Nicole asked during a video call. Girl, the man is practically living with you. We're taking it slow, Tanya said, but she smiled. She'd been thinking the same thing. Then everything shifted. Julian called her at work one Tuesday morning, his voice tight with stress. Can you come to my office? There's a situation. She found him surrounded by papers, laptop open, phone ringing constantly. His hair was messed up like he'd been running his hands through it. Dark circles showed under his eyes. What's wrong? The Riverside project fell through. The investor pulled out last minute. He gestured at the papers. That was the funding for 3 new community centers we'd planned, including expansion of this one. Without it what? I'll have to cut programs. Maybe lay off staff. He looked at her, anguish in his eyes. Tanya, I'm so sorry. Your job is safe, I promise. But the outreach programs, the after-school care, some of the housing assistance. She moved around the desk and took his hands. Don't apologize. We'll figure something out. I don't know how. I've called every investor I know. No one can move that fast with that much money. Tanya's mind raced. She thought about the families they served. The single mothers like she'd been. The kids who needed safe places after school. The elderly people who depended on their meal programs. Tell me about Riverside, she said. Why did the investor pull out? Cold feet. Said the neighborhood was too risky. Not enough return on investment. But there are people there who need help. I know. That's why I wanted to do it. Julian slumped in his chair. Sometimes doing the right thing doesn't make financial sense. Tanya paced his office thinking. She'd spent months now working with community organizations. She knew people, knew resources. An idea started forming. What if we didn't rely on one big investor? She said slowly. What if we got the community itself involved? What do you mean? The churches, the local businesses, the neighborhood groups. What if we brought them all together? Asked each to contribute what they could. It wouldn't be millions from one source, but lots of smaller amounts from many sources. Julian sat up straighter. Community investment. Exactly. And it would give them ownership in the project. Make it truly theirs. That could work. His mind was clearly spinning. We'd need someone to coordinate it. Someone who understands both the community needs and the business side. I can do it, Tanya said immediately. Tanya, this would be on top of your current job. It's a lot of work. I know. But these are my people. I want to fight for them. He stood and pulled her into a hug. You're incredible. You know that. Over the next 2 weeks, Tanya worked harder than she ever had in her life. She set up meetings with every church, business, and community group in the Riverside neighborhood. She explained the vision, a community center run by the community for the community. The response was overwhelming. The churches pledged funds and volunteers. Local businesses offered materials and services at cost. Residents organized fundraisers. A retired businessman donated his consulting services for free. Everyone wanted to be part of something positive in their neighborhood. Tanya coordinated it all, tracking commitments, organizing work groups, keeping everyone informed. Julian watched in awe as she pulled together what his big investor couldn't do alone. You're a natural leader, he told her one evening as they reviewed the numbers. They were at his penthouse apartment for once, Hope asleep in the guest room he'd set up for her. I'm just doing what needs to be done. It's more than that. You see possibilities where others see problems. You bring people together. He pulled her close. I couldn't do this without you. Yes, you could. You did for years before you met me. But it's better with you. Everything is better with you. 3 weeks after the crisis started, they had enough commitments to move forward with Riverside. Not the grand plan they'd originally envisioned, but something better. A true community project with community support. The press covered it as a story of hope and local involvement. Tanya was interviewed by several news outlets. She talked about her own experience, about receiving help and paying it forward. About the power of community. The publicity brought in additional donations. The project not only survived but grew beyond what they'd initially planned. You saved this, Julian told her at the groundbreaking ceremony. You saved all of it. We saved it. Together. He looked at her with such love that her breath caught. Tanya Johnson, you've changed my life. You know that. You changed mine first. No, I just gave you a hand up. You did the rest yourself. You're the strongest person I know. That night, after the ceremony, after Hope was asleep, Julian pulled out a small box. Tanya's heart stopped. Wait, he said quickly. Not yet. I want to do this right. But soon. I want you to know that's where my head is. Where my heart is. Tanya took the box and opened it. Inside was a simple gold bracelet with a small charm. A heart with the word hope engraved on it. For now, he said softly. To remind you that you gave me hope too. She put it on, her eyes filling with tears. I love you, Julian. I love you too. So much. They held each other, and Tanya felt grateful for every hard moment that had led her here. To this man. This life. This love. 6 months later, on a crisp October evening, Julian arranged for Nicole to take Hope for the night. He told Tanya to dress nicely but wouldn't say why. Where are we going? She asked for the 10th time as they drove. You'll see. He pulled up to a familiar building. The original Carter Family Center, once the parking garage where he'd found her. It was dark except for lights on the 3rd floor. Why are we here? Tanya asked. Come with me. He led her inside and up the stairs. When they reached the 3rd floor, Tanya gasped. The space had been transformed. White lights strung everywhere. Candles in safe holders. Flowers. Music playing softly. And photos covering one wall. Pictures of Tanya and Julian over the past year. Of hope growing. Of the 3 of them together. Julian, what is this? This is where we started. He took both her hands. Do you remember that night? Of course. I'll never forget it. I was supposed to inspect this building the next week. But something made me come that night. Something made me park where I did, walk the route I walked, stop when I heard you. His voice was thick with emotion. Finding you changed everything, Tanya. You changed me. Tears streamed down her face. You saved my life. No. You saved your own life. You survived. You fought. You protected hope even when you could barely breathe. I just gave you the tools to rebuild. But you did the rebuilding. He dropped to one knee. Tanya's hands flew to her mouth. Tanya Johnson, this past year with you has been the happiest of my life. You're smart, strong, compassionate, and beautiful inside and out. You're an amazing mother. An incredible partner. My best friend. He pulled out a ring box and opened it. A simple diamond sparkled in the candlelight. Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life loving you and hope? Will you be my family? The suspense of the moment hung in the air. Everything Tanya had been through, every struggle, every moment of despair had led to this. To this man, this proposal, this new beginning. A year ago, she'd been dying in this very building, hopeless and alone. Now she stood here, loved and valued, with a beautiful daughter and a man who saw her worth. She could say no. Could protect herself from potential hurt. Could stay independent and safe. But that wasn't who she was anymore. She was someone who accepted help when it was offered. Someone who believed in second chances. Someone who chose hope and love over fear. Yes, she said, her voice strong and sure. Yes, I'll marry you. Julian stood and slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her into a kiss that felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, both were crying and laughing at the same time. I love you so much, he whispered against her hair. I love you too. Thank you for seeing me. For not walking past that night. I'll never walk past. Not then, not now, not ever. They held each other in the space where their story began, surrounded by lights and photos and the promise of forever. Julian pulled back slightly, his hands cupping her face. I have one more thing. There's more? He laughed. I've been working on something. A new initiative at the foundation. I want you to co-direct it with me. Equal partners in everything, the business and our life. What do you think? You want me as your partner? In the company? I want you as my partner in everything. You're brilliant at this work. You understand it in ways I never could. We're better together. Tanya thought about her journey. From college dropout to homeless mother to foundation co-director. From hopeless to engaged to the man she loved. From barely surviving to truly thriving. Yes, she said again. To all of it. To everything. They danced slowly in that candlelit space, music playing softly, the city lights visible through the windows. This building that had once held only cold and despair now held warmth and promise. Tanya thought about baby Hope, sleeping peacefully at Nicole's house. About the wedding they'd plan. About the future they'd build together. About all the families they'd help through the foundation. What are you thinking about? Julian asked, his voice soft near her ear. About how sometimes the worst night of your life leads to the best days ahead. About how accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. About how love really does conquer fear. You're going to make me cry again. She smiled up at him. Good. I like seeing your emotions. Then you'll love being married to me. I'll probably cry at the wedding. Me too. Happy tears though. The best kind. They swayed together, and Tanya sent up a silent thank you to whatever force had brought Julian to that parking garage on that frozen night. Thank you for the man who didn't walk past. For the help that came when she needed it most. For the love that followed. As if reading her thoughts, Julian said, I'm grateful too. For all of it. Even the hard parts that led us here. Me too. Later, as they stood on the roof looking out over the city, Julian wrapped his arms around her from behind. Ready to start planning a wedding? Ready to start planning a life. Even better. The wind picked up, cool but not cold. Nothing like that terrible January night. Tanya leaned back against Julian's solid warmth and smiled. She'd survived the worst. Accepted help without shame. Built a new life through hard work and love. And now, she was choosing happiness without hesitation. Hope really did lead the way. Kindness really did matter. And love, real love, really could heal all wounds. Let's go home, she said. To Hope. To our family. They walked down together, hand in hand, the ring sparkling on Tanya's finger. Behind them, the lights of the Carter Family Center glowed warm and bright, a beacon of hope for anyone who needed it. Just like Julian had been for her. Just like she would be for others. The circle of kindness, complete.